Coming up tonight on Business Live, Parliament approves $300 million loan from the World Bank following Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam's intervention. We shall be telling you what this means to the economy. Also in this bulletin, as Ghana joins the rest of the world to mark International Women's Day, government is being urged to develop policies that promote inclusivity at workplaces.
Just if you really want to see, it has to be policy driven. So the policies must be in place, and it's not just policies being in place. These policies must be implemented.
Tributes continue to pour in for late Deputy Finance Minister Dr. John Kuma. We will be joined by the business community on that shortly. We have details of these and many others arranged for you. Please stay. Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojo Baka, and I would like to begin business from Parliament because the House has given a green light to a $3 million loan from the World Bank designated to support the first Resilient Recovery Development Policy financing. The funding will play a pivotal role in facilitating the government's implementation of outlined policies in the 2024 budget. Joining me in studio on the back of this development is Joy Business Editor George Yafe to break it all down for us. Thanks so much, George, for your time here on Business Live. Now, first off, how crucial is this $300 million approval we are learning?
Well, how crucial, how can people connect to it? The Ghana city is facing some pressures. It has to do with purely a demand and supply issue. So when there are fears that you might not got enough in your vote or in your balance to support the demand from business community, then there is what they call the excess demand. And that is what we see on the market playing out. What this will immediately do, based on our previous understanding that as soon as Parliament gives the green light, the World Bank is going to work to transfer the money to us. This will have an impact on the Bank of Ghana's reserves. Now these monies will be transferred to the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana will take the FX component of this money and then start releasing the CD component of that money to the government of Ghana. What we understand is it's supposed to go to support the budget. And so budget support projects, what do you call that, initiatives are there. Listen, if we cannot appreciate some of these inflows that are coming, we even understand that with respect to the IMF facility that came, because it was for budget support, some of the projects that you've seen around ongoing, even with the All African Games, we understand that some of these funding went a long way to support some of this infrastructure. So what this means is that first, it will go to support our reserves that could help deal with the current pressure on the Ghana city. And this is some of the projects that had stalled because government had failed to provide its government of Ghana component funding of it. They can release some of these monies to help in the resumption of some of these programs. But listen, this is not a free money. It's a loan coming from the world. But just go ahead.
Interesting, George. But we do know that at the end of the day, we are looking forward to these monies having a great impact on the economy. Yeah. How soon will we see such developments? And
I'll still go back to the FX space. It's a purely sentiment issue, fears, expectations. If for those who trade in the forex space now get the understanding that, listen, this money is going to come in, it will give some relief. It's not going to completely address our problem with the FX, but give some reliefs. It could also impact those who are rushing to get the dollars because they are afraid that when they need it in 2 months or in a month's time, they cannot get it. Now the Bank of Ghana has gotten some relief. So that whole news trickling to the market might help dampen those who are rushing for cities when they don't need it. Projects have stalled. It has implications on employment. It has implications on paying contractors who had their funds locked up. It has implications on even cost of credit. And so this is how this could trickle down to the economy in terms of stalled projects, the impact on people who are not working, the impact on even liquidity flowing in the system as well, because some of these contractors, if they are paid, they will then move and settle their debt to the commercial banks. It will improve the liquidity position of these commercial banks. They could also on-lend to people and all the rest. So this is how this whole thing will flow out. Some will say $300 million is peanut, but it is peanuts, but it could still tick and turn the spanner for the car to move.
And this, I guess, should be a great news to the business community and, of course, investors, both locally and internationally.
Of course, and that's what I'm saying, that for those investors or for those bilateral creditors who are waiting for government to provide its, government of Ghana support for or counterpart funding for it, it means that government can go ahead and provide its counterpart funding for these projects. So they will then bring in their funds. For the business community, the contractors who own these commercial banks, listen, this might go a long way so the government can now start paying some of these contractors. If they pay them, they can also pay if you are a worker with any of these contractors and they ask you to go, but they can't get the money. That would release some liquidity into the system, because some have complained that, listen, there isn't money in the system. And this might again influence things a little bit. But as I told you earlier on, this is not a grant, this is a loan. If you go through the Finance Committee report, we understand that it's a 25-year, as a facility that will be paid over 25 years.
Okay.
And so this is not a loan. I mean, you're looking at somewhere percentage of around 0.5% in terms of the commitment charge on this facility. And so you have a grace period of 5 years, and after 5 years, you start paying this money over 25 years. More of a concessional facility, far better than going to the commercial market to borrow. And don't forget that this is part of the IMF program, because the IMF will provide their funding component, the World Bank will do it, the other development partners will do it. And this money should have come in last year, but because of delays in reaching an agreement with our external creditors, it's now coming in. We'll see another $150 million coming in as well this quarter. And then by June this year, another $250 million coming in, all aimed at supporting Ghana's economy.
Great. Thank you very much, George Yafe, for breaking it all down for us on the back of that approval by Parliament in relation to the $300 million loan facility by the World Bank to support the economy, basically. All right, so let's shift focus to one of our big stories we are following up for you. And of course, it's a big day for women in Ghana. Government has been urged to develop policies that promote inclusivity at workplaces to enhance productivity, according to the Director of SME Agency Banking and Partnership at Absa Bank, Audrey Abanka. And now, developing such policies will require organizations to support and invest in marginalized groups such as women. She spoke to Joy Business at the International Women's Day conference organized by MTN Ghana.
Yes, Women, Business and the Law report disclosed that two indicators, safety from violence and access to childcare services, can be critical in opening up or restricting women's options. The report shows that women on average enjoy 64% of the legal protections that men do. It is for this reason, Director of SME, Agency Banking and Partnership at Absa Bank, Audrey Abanka, is calling for the implementation of policies that will protect women.
These changes, if you really want to see, it has to be policy driven. So the policies must be in place, and it's not just policies being in place. These policies must be implemented. And in the implementation, men must be included in such an implementation, because when we carry men along, we bring them along to advance these women inclusivity, it would work. And, you know, in our world today, we have seen men who are really advancing the cause of women, which is admirable. So we need more of the men to rise up to say that, look, let us drive policy agendas that favor women, that create an enabling environment for women to thrive and for women to progress.
Acting Chief Human Resource Officer for MTN Ghana, Abdallah Ibrahim, while speaking at the International Women's Day conference, indicated that his outfit is consciously working to increase women employment to 50% by 2030.
We think that what we've done in the past, although it's yielding some dividends, we don't think we are quite aggressive. So one of the key things that we're doing from this point onwards, I mean, if you do the math, from now till 2030 is about, 7 years or 6 years? So even if we're doing 1% every year, we're not going to make it. So we need to be able to do a lot more. And what we're doing now is that we're giving ourselves a target of a lot more aggressiveness in the way we hire. Our ambition this year is to do additional of 1.5%. And we think that if we can continue to do 1.5 every year, it's going to be better. And hopefully we can even achieve that target by 2029. By our estimation, that's what we anticipate to reach. But then obviously it depends on the collective efforts of the rest of the teams. And we would continue to explore more ways to get this done.
The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress.
Also, EcoBank Ghana has reaffirmed its commitment to support women-led businesses. Speaking at the Elevate Business Forum to commemorate World International Women's Day, Managing Director of EcoBank Ghana, Abnase Poku, indicated that the outfit will continue to implement initiatives targeted at accelerating women. This year's theme connotes.
National Women's Day, March 8th, is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality. To mark the day, EcoBank Ghana organized the Elevate Business Forum to celebrate their female customers. Managing Director of EcoBank Ghana, while addressing the group, reassured the bank's drive to help women-led businesses thrive.
As a bank, we've always supported economic development at every stage. And clearly, I'm a woman, so I can't say we support women. We do. And this is a program for women. And we are very keen in accelerating business progress. So that is one of the things you see us do more and more of going forward. So first of all, thank you for your business. Thank you for doing business with us. And our affirmation is that as we continue to work with you, we will support you to also grow. The second one I wanted to mention was that we will be engaging you on a quarterly basis. And then finally, the third thing I wanted to highlight is we'll also be launching what we call the Elevate Entrepreneurship Challenge. And we are hoping that, some of you will be available to support us and help us.
A clinical psychologist and the CEO of Equilinks Counseling and Psychological Support Services, Dr. Macolin Wolf Caesar, urged women to take time to care for their mental health amidst the chaos.
Women, we take our mental health for granted because we think that we are programmed to do that. And then many times we don't realize how much we're going through. We're running businesses, we're looking after the family, we're looking after our aged parents. Of course, men are doing the same thing, but then we are expected to be there for everybody. The kids come to us, so we need to stop. From time to time, we need to stop and check. Is my mental health in a good place? Because like I said, if it isn't, you're going to get physical problems. You're going to get emotional problems. You're going to get behavioral issues. So you don't want to be making mistakes at work. You don't want to be fighting with your neighbors. All these things are signs and symptoms of poor mental health. So it's always good to check.
The hashtag for this year's International Women's Day is Inspire Inclusion.
More on our women, Charter House has held its annual National Women's Summit and Expo to mark the International Women's Day celebration. Keynote speaker and Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nana Aba Apia Mamfo, called for the passage of the Affirmation Action Bill. According to her, the passage of the bill will help increase the interest of women in corporate workforce and government jobs.
The National Women's Summit and Expo celebrated its 6th anniversary in line with the International Women's Day celebration. The discussion focused on inspiring inclusion of women in the workplace and the community. Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nanaba Ampia Amfu, said it is important to pass laws that protect women and encourage their growth in the business space.
Deliberate measures have to be taken to promote women participation in leadership, governance, and decision-making processes at the corporate, institutional, national, and international levels. Advocacy. Discussions on issues affecting women should not be restricted to commemorative days such as this one, but these should be regular features in our national discourse in order to attract the needed attention for policy reforms. Intrinsic motivation. Once there are hurdles along the way, the fact remains that women need to reach within ourselves. We need to reach within ourselves to derive enough strength to continue to forge ahead.
Convener of the National Women's Summit, Teresa Ayoade, called for collective efforts to improve gender parity in the society.
I believe the National Women's Summit
succeeded in creating awareness of the gender parity issues affecting women globally and right here in Ghana. And Ghanaian women have been encouraged, inspired, and empowered to stand up and be more intentional in pursuing gender parity for themselves. The rise of Ghanaian women can also be seen in the increase in women in top management positions of companies, leadership roles, as well as in entrepreneurship and corporate governance.
This year's International Women's Day was celebrated under the theme Inspire Inclusion.
The United Nations Development Programme in Ghana says it is looking forward to leveraging on the African Continental Free Trade Area to create more jobs opportunities for women. The United Nations is estimating that 300 young girls and women could be pushed into extreme poverty if little is done to close the gender gap. Speaking in a conversation on foreign affairs on Joy News, resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme in Ghana, Dr. Angela Lusingi, said her office is working on helping SMEs to access more financing in order to create additional opportunities for women.
Well, let me start with what we're doing on entrepreneurship, because we believe that this is a space that there's a lot of opportunities now, especially with things like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. There are opportunities now to trade across borders, and we're looking to meet micro, medium, and small-scale enterprises to be the engine that opens up jobs and opportunities for young people and also women-led enterprises. So we're very much looking at the ecosystem as a whole. So we're working with Empretech, ABSA and MasterCard Foundation and others to be able to create a space for identifying young innovators and being able to take them through a process of business development, support, and so on, so that they can be able to grow the kinds of enterprises that will be able to access formal financing. And we're not the only ones doing that. And so we believe strongly that there should be better coordination amongst all the different players, and working with the enterprise agency, working with the export agency, working with the National Coordination Office for AFTA, just to make sure that we have more young people accessing these opportunities from across the country.
UN Women has released a data on this, pointing out that some 342 million women and girls could be in extreme poverty by 2030 if this trend continues. Are you alarmed about this?
Well, the figures, and I really want to write on what Senator said, the Ghana Statistical Services is very good at providing a lot of information about what's happening on multidimensional poverty. Because for us, multidimensional poverty looks at disparities when it comes to health, it looks at disparities when it comes to education, access to food and so on. So there is a very large proportion of women and children who are currently in poverty, and it's likely to increase if we don't see a lot of investment in really growing the economy and opening up opportunities for women.
And the full interview of our International Women's Day special edition with Dr. Angela Lusigi and Dr. Zenato Ajiman Rollins is on the Joy News channel at 10 p.m. tonight. Do make a date. You're still watching Business Live. We've got more stories for you after this break. Hello, welcome back to Business Live. Tributes continue to pour in following the demise of Dr. John Kumah. Latest to express his condolence is former Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta, who described Dr. John Kumah's death as unbelievable. Ken Ofori-Atta tells Joy Business Dr. Kumah is someone who can be described as a dependable public servant.
It was just, saddening and tragic and just unbelievable because we had spoken on Sunday, talking about a way forward and the things he was going to be doing. And he was just checking in on me, how I was also doing. That's the strength of the empathy. But I was in my study when I got a call, and I was just stunned. It's so unexpected. And I've been working with John since February 2021, and he's just one of the most, passionate and patriotic people, I have met. He just reminded me so much of when I was growing up, and my dad's passion, things like that. The words that he used on his poster were young, dynamic, and fearless. And I always looked at John as epitomizing those, just tireless, hardworking, a real defender of the Republic and the policies that we have.
All right, so we can now engage the business community now. Joining us via Zoom to do that is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chenam Apelu. Chenam, thanks so much for your time. Now, how would you describe the late Deputy Finance Minister as a business community?
Thank you, Pius. Good evening, and good evening to your cherished listeners. So, John's loss has been a huge blow for us in the business community. John, as all of us in the business community have come to appreciate, remain one of the greatest pillars and supporters of business and entrepreneurship in our country. He's been extremely particular about indigenous capitalism and indigenous entrepreneurship, promoting Ghanaian-owned businesses. John has been keen at helping in shaping the startup arts and the whole entrepreneurship ecosystem, contributing to the policy framework and policy development for growing entrepreneurship in general. He's one of those few politicians who would pick his call and actually return his call and listen to you and get back to you with feedback. He's super humble, very approachable, and just ready for work. And so for us in the business community, we consider this as a huge loss, and our prayer is that God will find him a rightful place. We really look forward that as a sign of his legacy and in memory, that the government of the day consider to deepen issues around industrial growth and also about indigenous industrialization and capitalism, which are values that he stood for. The belief that it was important to develop true local entrepreneurship and supporting Ghanaian-owned businesses and ensuring that even in difficult situations, Ghanaian-owned businesses or African-owned businesses receive the best support they need to flourish. I recall a situation where on the eve of the African Union Continental Free Trade Agreement, we were supposed to go to Abidjan to engage with the Ivorian business community. He was all out for it and actually was going to lead the delegation to Abidjan until it was postponed, for which time we were waiting for a new day to go. And he was going to be the leader of that delegation to Abidjan. And so for us, we're stuck. It's really unfortunate, and we had really wished that this hadn't happened, but God knows best. And so, as I mentioned in his memory, we really would like to see a more deepened private sector, which is full of participation of local entrepreneurs, and also a policy environment that promotes the private sector to flourish, and that actually identify private sector not only as the engine of growth, but actually as the entire vehicle that will help us to achieve and get us to the dreamland. And so we look forward that John's life on this earth will become a lesson for all of us in promoting the cause of the private sector.
Thank you very much, Chenam Apelu, for your time here on Business Live, sharing your thoughts and fond memories of Deputy Finance Minister Dr. John Kumah. And that's it for the bulletin. I am Pius Kojo Baka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. There you go. We need a national housing fund to address affordable home ownership challenges. That's according to the executive chairman of the Comet Properties there. Also on that portal, you would see Bank of Ghana projects further easing in overall stance on corporate loans. face on TV like that? Why putting my face on TV too much? Why?